Welcome to Your Healing Era, a podcast for artists, creatives, healers, anyone living outside the traditional mold who's searching beyond the conventional forms of healing. Don't forget to subscribe, follow, and rate the podcast. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's episode. Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us. I got a really special guest today, the trailblazing artist, electronic instrumentalist, composer, producer, performer, Yuka Honda. Yeah, she's the founder of the band Chibo Mato in the 90s, and she worked with a lot of really cool artists like Mark Rebo, Yoko Ono, the Beastie Boys, David Byrne, Sean Lennon, and of course with her husband, the guitarist Nels Cline. Yuka's also one of the sweetest people that I know, and I'm really blessed and happy to have you here, Yuka, and just chat a little bit. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for this beautiful introduction.
Yeah, I'm happy you're joining me here on the full moon. It's exciting. I didn't plan it to be. We kept postponing, and then it just happened to be like that. So that's nice.
It's meant to be.
It's meant to be. Yeah, so much to talk about. I feel like last time I saw you was a couple months ago during the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And we were out and about at like 2 a.m. We went to see Nels play at a show. And I was just thinking to myself, how do you do it all? I feel so exhausted sometimes by the city life and like the touring and performing and everything. And there you are, just like hanging out in the middle of the night. And I was feeling all inspired. I'm like, what's your secret?
The secret is I don't do it all the time. I do it maybe once or twice. 2 a.m. is pretty late for me. I like to go to bed before that. But that event in particular where Nels does the jam, that always happens pretty late at night. And they also play for a very long time. They play to fish audience who are very used to like long concerts. So I work out entire year towards that evening so I can stay standing up for 3 hours.
Where should we start? I feel like recent years during the pandemic, you moved out of the city, New York City, you moved upstate. From what I heard from you, you got really inspired by just living out in nature, inspired by certain farms and certain new electronic instruments that you found that kind of inspired your recent releases titled Farm Psychedelia and your recent years of performing. So you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so I actually kind of wanted to live in the countryside for a while, but when I met Nels, because I wanted to live in the countryside for a while, I brought it up. And then he responded that I've dreamt to live in New York City all my life. I wanted to live in the city.
Where was he living at the time?
Los Angeles.
Okay.
So he was born and raised and lived in Los Angeles for 5 decades when I met him. So, and he said he always dreamt to live in New York City. So I was like, okay. And so we did, 10 years of that. And we weren't necessarily planning to move out of the city when pandemic hit. But the lockdown hit, and so a friend of ours started to write to me and said that, oh, you guys should move to the country. And I was like, well, that sounds great, but where? Like, we have no plan, no. It just seemed like a dream and nothing realistic. But he actually found us a house that we can rent because somebody was trying to sell their house and they had put it on the market, but they moved out of the house because they need to show their house once you put it on the market. So they already moved out and they were renting a house elsewhere. And this house was kind of floating in the air. They were using it as Airbnb, but all the Airbnb appointments got canceled because of COVID. So he sent us the address of this place and we looked it up and we didn't know anything around it whatsoever. Like, it just really felt like we're moving to Mars. And so first we were like, oh, let us think about it. But that evening we couldn't sleep because we didn't, this was when we didn't know anything about COVID. You know, there was like a lot of fear, and people who a lot of people wanted to act cautiously, and other people wanted to act a little bit more bold way, and there was a lot of confusion in the air. So we couldn't sleep that night, and in the morning we said maybe we should try, because what do we have to lose? We can just sit here, or we can just try this place. Let's try. So we moved to this place. We rented a minivan and moved in a snowstorm day. So it was a very dramatic move. And then we settled down in this house where we didn't even have Wi-Fi. Uh, we weren't getting cell reception. We were so isolated from the world. And it was really odd, and it took us a few months to get used to. But after a couple of months, we hit the spring, and everything started to grow, and this kind of like brown, it felt like deserted place where we couldn't get in touch with anyone. Started to feel like magical heaven. And we got reintroduced to the nature, these greens, these flowers growing everywhere. And it was a strange awakening. And also every May, what happens in this area, I don't know about the rest of the world, but frogs go crazy. Frogs, and they make incredible sounds all night long. And that was trippy. And I think it was kind of the moment that we started to feel some connection to the land, because there was the music that was played by the nature that was massive, actually, and loud and really intriguing. It was like music concrete, and inspiring in a strange way. And so we stayed here, and then the house got sold, and we had to move, and next house got sold, and we had to move again. But by then we kind of got really used to this area, and I started to meet people, which you mentioned. One of the biggest inspiring meeting was this farm. I found them at the farmers market, because I found this stand. They have vegetables that are a little bit like, they don't look pristine, but they look really natural. They look a little bit dirty and uneven, and their vegetable looked really alive. So I bought them, and immediately I noticed that, wow, these vegetables are so special. So I talked to people at the stand, and eventually visited this farm and became friends, and realized that these people do incredible work by donating their food. They grow these vegetables, and they mainly donate this food to food insecure people. And also, especially, they consciously grow food that we Asian people like, for example, and Chinese people, Japanese people, Taiwanese people, Filipino people, we all have these vegetables that we eat that are very special to our culture. Puerto Rican people, Dominican people, they all have these vegetables that are special to their culture. So they consciously grow this food and donate them. And I was really moved by these people. They were really cool. Also, they were hiring a lot of punk rock kids from Bushwick, like two, like ex-chef. And I really felt home in this environment. And also, I was really in awe of their work. So I started to really love this area by finding these people. And then through this farm, I found this electronic music company, because they were also supporting this farm. And so I went to meet Brian and Kelly, who make this instrument called Mono. And I got very, very inspired by them. So I just bought this instrument and started to play. And it really made the sound that I always wanted to make, because I play electronics music. So in some way I can manipulate a lot of sounds, but there's some kind of like make thing that happens that's mechanical that I wanted to overcome. It was like a wall that I always wanted to overcome. And the instrument really helped me to make the sound that is somewhat closer to nature. It feels like river, it feels like rolling water. It allowed me to make all this sound that I relates to what I was seeing, what my eyes were seeing in this world. So I got very inspired, and so I started to make this new set of music as a solo artist. And from that, I think a lot of healing began for me as a human and as an artist, as somebody who's carried certain bags during my lifetime that I didn't know I was able to be free from. I wanted to be free from certain weights that I picked up during my life, and I kind of found the way through these experiences.
Hey, I'm gonna pause for just a minute because I really gotta tell you about this. If you're feeling called to go deeper on this work, and if you're a woman who loves making music or exploring sound, writing songs, and expressing yourself creatively, I'm leading a retreat in Mexico this summer. It's an intimate, immersive week of embodied healing and creative expansion. We'll have a professional recording studio on site. We'll be writing, producing, dancing, practicing yoga, meditating, swimming in the ocean, all the things. So really living inside our bodies and inside our art. If this is calling you, all the details are below. We have limited spots and we have early bird pricing, so go check it out. And if Mexico isn't happening for you right now, I also have a free nervous system regulation tool that you can explore at home in your own time. And if you're ready for something more structured, my full nervous system sorcery course is also available. Everything is linked below. All right, let's get back to the episode.
Also, my trip to Africa, I went to Morocco in 2022. This also had some kind of really serious healing. Since I think you like to talk about healing, I want to talk about healing too.
Yeah. Can I pause you for 1 second? I just want to ask about what is the name of that farm that you mentioned so that we can also put their info in the show notes if anybody wants to know them or support them.
Great. They're called Starroot Farm. I actually happen to be wearing the sweatshirt Starroot.
Starroot. Cool.
Yeah. They're really, I just love them so much. And I think really meeting them and see how, I don't know, inhaling, breathing their energy, their belief and what they're doing, really, it touched something that I had inside of me that I didn't know how to touch. It just opened up. It just kind of like gave me this, like, it helped me channel into certain side of me. And
yeah, that sounds really special, like really meaningful. Like they have such a great mission that really resonated.
yeah. And also it all really comes from their love for food. So they all cook really good food and they want to eat better food, and that's why they want to grow really great vegetables. And that's kind of, I relate to that. I really want to hear good music and inspiring music, the transporting music, and that's why I make music. It's a very basic thing, but sometimes you forget why you're doing what you're doing. You're just kind of confronted with things that comes with it, and they really they put me in touch with this basic that is really exciting. And I also really love food. So
you cook amazing food. Yuka, maybe it was like a couple of years ago. I don't know if you remember, but I was over at your place in the city, and I ate a soup that you made, and it made me cry. It was so good.
Thank you. Thank you.
It was like a chicken soup of some kind.
Yeah, I make pretty simple food. I don't make like super complicated high-end food, but I like to make fresh food that tastes good and also feels, it has to feel good. And for that, you need really good quality vegetables. You need good quality ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
so when vegetable is alive and made with love, these people really, so at Starwood, they do, for example, I don't know what you call that. I think it's called biodynamics. Like they grow many plants all at once in the same area. So they help each other to
Oh.
grow. But this is not, this is very laborious way to grow vegetables. I understand because you can't use machine to take care of it. You have to get down on your knees and do a lot of manual labor to grow these vegetables. It takes a lot of love, a lot of physical effort. The truth of the farmers is that they're hurting because of this hardcore labor that it requires. And you can't take a break once the season hits. You can't be like, oh, I need to take a break today. That doesn't happen for them. So it's very beautiful. It's very committed energy. That's the vegetable is charged with this committed energy. And when I cook with that, I don't really have to do much. I just have to salt it and put it on the plate.
That's amazing. So you started talking about Africa. I stopped you like a little bit ago. I
Yeah,
remember when you came back, you're like
yeah,
a new person. You were
yeah. I was
talking about the
beaming.
children.
Yes, children. The children I met really, they changed my life, honestly. And so I was in Morocco, but I wasn't in touristic area. I was in Sahara Desert, in
Oh,
kind
some
of
of
like,
my favorite music comes from that area.
yeah, incredible music. So the music itself was a big healing for me. And I loved African music always and listened to them on vinyl or CD or internet. But I realized that when you listen to it there in Africa, in this African air, and African people playing African instruments, it had different effect on me. I don't know how to explain, but the air, the building, everything I was seeing, I was eating, really made me understand the music better. I mean, I don't know better of the words. It just got inside of me more. I guess that's more what it is. I would just sit there, and it was a music festival, but it wasn't a commercial festival. It was not a commercial festival. It was funded by American Foundation, and they were doing traditional music festival. So there were musicians from Ghana, musicians from Mali, a lot of desert musicians, like nomad musicians, Moroccan musicians. And so we would get together and rehearse, but outside of the rehearsal room, everybody's playing music all the time, dancing all the time. When we're waiting for the bus to come to pick us up, they're playing drums and people getting into this dance and chanting. And it was just really magical experience. And the place is so hot in Sahara Desert. It's so hot that people can't do anything during the day. So kids are playing from like 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Is children's hour for them to play. And it was really strange experience to hear children running around at like 10 p.m. But that's when they're like, yay, like finally sun's down. So we did this music festival. There's so many stories about this festival, but I'm going to skip it all. We were playing at late night, and tons of kids are there to enjoy the festival. And all these kids somehow decided to want to hang out with me, and they're all. I was sitting in the sea of children. I don't know how that happened, but it was very beautiful. And these kids are just really beautiful. Their eyes are. I wished I was a painter because I can draw their eyes. They look like the most clean water, purest water, and they all want to hold on to me. So so it's only two girls can really hold on to me. So they're kind of fighting to hold on to me. But if two of them hold on to me, other girls back off. Like there's this like very incredible manner that these kids knew uh, without trying that really impressed me. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk fast, so please stop me if I'm not making sense. But at
I'm
one
with you.
point, at one point I was watching my friends' musicians on stage performing because it started to rain and I have a laptop and electronic instruments out there. I couldn't play in the rain, so I had to cover all my gear with blanket and I decided to come off stage and watch it. And that's when all the kids came to me and we were watching our friends perform on stage from the audience area. And the ground is filled with sand, but because it's raining, it's kind of muddy. It's desert, but when it rains, it actually is intense rain. So it's a little bit muddy. And I was wearing this yellow outfit, and I was wearing this yellow pants. And at one point, guards came to us and they told us to sit down. They were like, sit down, you guys have to sit down. So everybody had to kneel on the ground, but I didn't want to put my knees on the ground just because I was wearing yellow pants. And this girl who's probably like 8 years old noticed me not wanting to put down my knees. So she put her knees under my legs and she said, please sit on my legs.
Wow.
Like clearly her legs are like much smaller than I would crush her if I sit on her legs. But it really made me want to cry. This generosity of the girl who doesn't know me, and we don't really have any experience of having great time during the day. We just kind of met, and she's already giving me so much love, and I don't know, really, really changed me. That evening was very monumental for me to experience these children so generous with love and also so well behaved at the same time, like passionate with love. They're like going like Yuka, Yuka. I told them my name, so they're like running around me going Yuka, Yuka, but also behaving really well. And I really felt like I saw the highest form of human being in them.
Wow.
Yeah, and I guess their energy infected me, and it was a really big healing experience for me. I felt trust in human. I felt trust in this world by seeing them.
Wow. That's huge
Yeah,
because so many people talk about human nature and how we're all greedy, and we forget that yes, there is greed in the world and there's conditions that lead to it, but in children sometimes is when you see it so clearly that really like it's very natural to just be compassionate to people around
yeah,
you.
yeah. And this village is experiencing like they don't have enough water. The water has to be brought from outside of town, and they have to share this water. So there's always shortage of water. There's always shortage of food. They're not having it easy. And in with that condition, to be that kind to a stranger just came in, and I'm like from America. I have iPhone, uh, um, to be really able to give me so much. I really wanted to be like them. I really got so inspired by meeting them.
That's so cool. That's such a beautiful story. I remember hearing you talk on another podcast actually about your childhood, which is
Mm,
probably very different from these kids. Because
mm,
I often heard you talk about just being isolated because of being with your parents in Europe and not being in your own culture and kind of like keeping to yourself and finding your own world. And it's fascinating to me how you even found music because I also heard you talk about a piano teacher when you were a girl who told you to never, that you should probably never be a musician.
yeah, that's what I grew up thinking that one thing I shouldn't do with my life is music.
I love these stories because it's like we all find our path of life in one way or another, but some of it is very intentional and directed, and some of it is just like it's just happened.
Yeah, it just happened. I think now that I look back, I mean, if I was to analyze why I became a musician, I think because I was so isolated, like my family didn't have friends when we were in Germany or Denmark. You know, they weren't able to make friends. They didn't speak the language. I spoke the language better than them because I was a kid. I learned them fast. But we were in very conservative town in Germany. And when we went to Denmark, we went to a very remote town in Denmark. And so I wasn't allowed into the society. And I hesitant to call it a racism. I think it was more like they were just really not used to seeing somebody looking so different. And so I think what I was doing was I was listening. I was listening to a lot of sounds and conversations, and I spoke and I read a lot of books. So I had like maybe 5, 10 books that I read like hundreds times because that was the only entertainment that I had. I didn't have TV. I didn't watch TV. My mother was against TV. Against TV, and I was just reading books and just listening. And I think something it helped my ears to kind of listen for the sound. And my piano teacher didn't like me very much because I was not a good player, but my ear training teacher really liked me because I was able to identify notes, identify chords. I was able to read very fast. Like that ability was there. I just didn't have motor skill. I didn't wasn't able to express what I was hearing in
Like a
performing.
technical way.
Yeah. And I think that's because I wasn't playing when I was in kindergarten in Germany. I had no friends. So I was just sitting and I just wasn't moving at all. So I was this like weird child that grew up without moving that much. And so it's a blessing that we have electronic music now because it really allows me to express it in a different way than playing, which I also like playing, but with an aid of machines, I think it helps me to express music. And I think the isolation time when I was a kid is definitely a big part of me becoming an artist because I think I was incubating something so much, you know.
Mhm.
I was in cocoon and I think my inner garden, it was really helpful for my inner garden. And that allows me to became an artist today.
I believe in periodical isolation. I like to
Yeah,
disappear sometimes too.
yeah. It's like it's important to I can't remember when, but maybe like pretty long time ago, I read this 20 wisdom phrases from Dalai Lama. And I don't know if it's true that if Dalai Lama said it, I don't have a proof of it because I got really fascinated by these 20 things that actually was very helpful to read. And one of it was make sure that you have a time alone every day. And that made me aware of importance of that.
Yeah. What else do you think is important to maintain health, mental and physical and energetic and all of it? Do you have like daily things you do or?
Well, daily thing I like to do that I don't always get to do, but that really helps my emotional state is actually to exercise in the morning. So this is something that I really like to do when I'm busy and like when I get really busy also like a lot of problems happen and then I really wish I was exercising, but I can't often I can't do it because I'm too busy. But I'm starting to realize that your body and your mind are one. And I started to exercise maybe 2 years ago, a few years ago. I did start to do yoga in 90s. So I have some knowledge of yoga. My brother also became a yoga teacher. So I'm also familiar with a lot of yoga philosophy, and I'm someone who struggled a lot with my mental issues. So I pay attention if somebody is talking about how to heal or what to think about the wisdoms. I do this, I recommend this. I always pay attention to what people are saying and try things if it apply, if I feel applied to me. So one of the things that I think really works is exercising, especially now that I'm getting older, just to move and have your body fluid running. And I think you can exercise in any way that you want. You can do pumping iron if that's your thing, or you can do yoga if that's your thing. Um, I like to do yoga with a little bit of burst exercise because I can do it at home. I like to do it before I eat. Um, and when I do that, it's very helpful. And the rest is just to assess and remember a lot of things, assess what's happening. So trying to understand the truth of what's happening. Because all these things come at you. You feel like, oh my God, I solved all my problems. That never happens. There's always something that's always challenging you. So try to assess what they are, trying to understand influences, what's affecting you, trying to have good community of people around you. I think that's really, really important. Make sure that you have people you can trust, people who loves you for real, like people who cares about you, not because you're this or that, people who really loves you through thick and thin. So I've had really up and down in my life, and I found that to be a blessing because when you're down, you really know who your friends are,
Hmm.
who your
Yeah.
supporters are. And so make sure that you have right people around you. Understand that everything is relative. Nothing is absolute. Everything is relative. Oh, one of the things that I learned in Africa that's inspiring me today and think about today is that African traditional musicians get together and they don't have like digital tuner, which we use in our Western society. We always have digital tuner. And in our life, everybody has a digital tuner and you tune to digital tuner, let's say 440, you tune to 440, and then you play with people, and then you go, oh no, you're out of tune. I'm more in tune. You're more out of tune. This doesn't happen in Africa. In Africa, you tune to each other. You don't tune to a machine. There's no this like absolute value. You tune to each other. So if I was playing guitar and you're playing bass, we tune to each other. So the right tuning is where we agree, where we come together is the right tuning. There's not like some number out there that we should get close to, and one of us is closer and one of us is off. No, we have to come together first. And this was very philosophical, beautiful, inspirational discovery for me.
It's such
You
a
know,
different approach.
it's a different approach. And the instruments are often made with like animal skin, and it gets affected by the humidity of the air. It gets affected by the weather of the day. If it's day or night, it gets affected. So you're constantly tuning to each other. And I really loved what this meant. So, often there's this myth that in older time people used to tune to 432 or something, and now we tune to 440, and that's evil tuning, and older tuning is uh, peaceful tuning. Have you heard
I've
of the
heard some
theory?
stuff, yeah.
Okay. So sometimes people ask me what I think of that. And I think what happened in older time was that we didn't have a digital tuner. We didn't have this absolute tuner. and we tuned to a tuning fork or people who are present in the room, and we had to come together to make music. There wasn't like I'm more right in this music and you're wrong in this music. No, we had to. Music is not happening unless we come together.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what made peace. That's what made the collaboration of the music. So tuning can be 4:45 or 4:30 or whatever it is. If we're together, we make music.
I feel like I felt that vibe from you even before you went to Africa when we were rehearsing for something.
Yeah,
Because I find myself, there's the educated musician part of me, and then the more just spontaneous musician that, throwing everything I know out the window and just using the ear and just using intuition and not having to have everything on a grid and everything be correct or whatever. And it's like also the language that you use is like what you learn in music school and in language. We talked about one time that you said you feel like Japanese people express differently when you're trying to like convey a musical idea. You wouldn't necessarily speak in like quote unquote proper terms. And I
yeah,
like that. I like that a lot.
yeah. I do find it much easier to communicate with Japanese musician when I want to say something like this part is quiet, but it's not just quiet. It's just quiet like in snow field that that the storm is about to happen, but it's quiet. That's a different quietness
Hmm.
than just peaceful quietness.
Hmm.
And nobody says, what do you mean by that? Everybody goes, oh, okay, 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 we'll try that one.
I also heard you say one time something about working with Yoko Ono about how she likes the feeling of first steps on the snow, like not
Yeah,
rehearsing much so that things are super just fresh.
yeah, definitely. Because when you rehearse, rehearsing is also beautiful. So, once again, I'm not saying either or. And some complex music needs serious rehearsal. But there's always the first time that we play music that this extreme attention that we have to pay because it's the first time and nothing is automatic, you know. Where we play music over and over and over, and there's something also special happens because it's all automatic and we also start trancing into a zone. But this first step on the snow is definitely a special feeling. And when you improvise with people, for example, sometimes you experience this magic just because you're paying so much attention to details and you feel it. I think it's very important to feel music, you know, because we can be,
In our heads.
yeah,
Hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I thought about it a lot over the years too when I played in bands that I played with artists that we would rehearse so much and played a lot, and other artists that would never want to rehearse and would just like to jump into the recording studio and just tell the drummer to play this, do that, and then it will all just come together. Kind of messy, but miraculous at the same time. And then And then what you said about, I forget what words you just used, but when you like rehearse so much that you have that freedom that you can really just like the freedom that comes out of knowing the music so well that you could just take it to other places or get into nuances that you couldn't before because you were just worried about, oh wait, do I know what's the next chord? Now I know it so well, then I have freedom to do stuff. So there's
yeah,
both it has their own magic is what I'm saying.
yeah. You can do a lot more bold stuff when you have rehearsed a lot. It's like, this part has to get loud. You know that this part has to really give energy. You can really go for it, when you have rehearsed. So, but yeah, there's some special feeling about not rehearsing. Um, but yeah, I think there are many ways to do music, obviously, and school teaching is important, especially if you want to do something authentic. Um, there are many rules that you can learn, and I too have learned certain sets of basic uh, basic knowledge of music, but I do try not to learn anymore. I do want to, because I want to do something unique to myself. I don't find myself to be equipped to become incredible, authentic musician. I think I'm better at doing something new or different. Um, that's where I want to go. So, in order to do that, I'm trying not to have as many bags of knowledge, so I can just jump. I don't want to see the fence when I jump, you know.
I love that. Okay, so here's a question.
Okay.
If you could go back a few decades back to a young Yuka on her early days of discovering synths and samplers and music and um now knowing now that you have all these decades of um work in the music and creativity and everything that all the ups and downs and all the waves and experiences that you've had, do you have any advice for her health, for her mental health, for her creative process? What would you tell her now?
Mm, that's an interesting question because I do want to tell her to be trust yourself more. You can trust yourself, it's gonna work out. You got it, girl, I want to say all these things. But at the same time, I feel like I needed all those struggles to come here. I needed all this dark time of self-doubt. I needed all this weird times that I wanted to quit. They all are serving me now. They all are making it very clear to me that this is what I have to do. And also, I think it gave me a lot of humility to, so I have sympathy for the people who are struggling, uh, because I've been there. And so I don't really feel like I want to go back and change my life, even though I want to hold myself sometimes if I can go back in time and just tell myself that it's going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes we just gotta learn through the life. Yeah, I love that answer because I've heard this question asked before to other artists. And I like that answer of like, yeah, you have to live a while. You have to
Yeah,
experience life.
yeah, and I like to think that everything happens for a reason. So I think I needed to build some muscles, of life, because this is a crazy place and all sorts of weirdness happens. And I think some people have right muscles and right vision of themselves and start really early. And I started very late and also had a lot of doubt and confusion as I started, because maybe I started late. I didn't think I was going to become a musician, so I had many self-doubt. And yeah, so it's all fine now because I feel that now I know I'm here to do this regardless of what happens with what I'm doing. This is what I'm meant to do. And I feel very solid about this, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah, that's a powerful feeling. And I'm
Yeah,
glad
I'm
you're,
thankful.
yeah, I'm thankful too.
Thank you.
Anything else you're excited about these days? Anything you want to update the world? Where can people find you?
Well, I have a website, yuka and I'm really trying to update it as often as I can. Um, Probably I'm most active on Instagram, so that's where you can find out my activities. I'm trying to play more shows because I kind of believe in performing my music. My music is really written to be performed, so I also need to figure out how to transform that into recording format. I've been trying it and I've released some music, but I think I want to go farther with my exploration in that world. But I'm going to play a lot. I actually have so many shows coming up. Not all of them can be announced at this point, but I'm playing a lot in March, April, in East Coast, New York area. Uh, I played some shows also in Los Angeles because I have friends there. Um, I'm also playing at Big Ears, so that's Knoxville, which is I think my one of my favorite music festivals. I'm really looking forward to go there and perform and also see a bunch of my friends performing and touch base and all that stuff.
Sweet. So I'll put all the links to your website and your Instagram in the show notes so that if anyone wants to see where Yuka's playing and maybe go see her perform this very, very special music, then they can.
Thank you.
Yay, Yuka, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. It was nice to talk to you. Nice to see you.
You too.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If this episode resonated, send it to a friend, share it in your stories, or take a moment to rate the podcast and subscribe. It genuinely helps this little baby podcast grow organically and reach to the people that it needs to reach. I really appreciate every comment and every review. And as always, if you want to go deeper, my course, retreat, and free resources are all linked below. This is your healing era. Take care, and I'll see you next time.